guys, Sean Madison here. I wanted to take a moment and explain these boards right here. These are the Hyperglide models, and I actually have two models here. I have the Hyperglide 1, which this is a 9-footer, this is an 8-footer, and the Hyperglide 2. And really the whole Hyperglide is, I usually try to describe it as if a glider and a gun had a baby. And so that's sort of like the theme, but there's some design characteristics about this board that are very different than most conventional surfboards. The first one we'll talk about is the Hyperglide 1, and I'm making them up, you know, as far as length from 6'8" all the way up to 9 foot. And these guys, the rockers are pretty flat, and you find that flat boards roll into waves really, really easy. They're great for lined up waves or more rolly style waves. Where they have issues is going to be more steep and hollow kind of waves because the rocker doesn't fit, and that's where we'll get into the Hyperglide 2. But continuing on about the Hyperglide 1, one of the unique things about the board is the bottom. The bottom has a lot of roll, just as I was saying, like a flat board. If you don't put V through the board, especially up in the nose area, you'll find that the board wants to stick to the face because the rocker is so flat. But as far as speed, it's incredible. And having a nice sleek outline allows the board to really be thrown around. And I love to set them up as twin fins. This one right here, I've got, you know, with some pretty big twin fins, as you can see here, with a nubster, and it really frees the board up for such a big board. And I've surfed it in quite big surf, solid double overhead, but more of a rolly style wave, and it performed incredible. And then my 8-footer, I've actually chosen not to put a nubster in it. I like it more just as a twin fin, but I have used it as a thruster. As you can see here, I've kind of made some marks here. I like to do that so I know where my fin placements are. I always mess with boards and different fin templates and stuff like that. But, you know, having the twin fin without the nubster, I find that the board is really, really maneuverable. But what I've run into in some waves, especially surfing at the Oceanside Harbor, sometimes the waves have a nice rolly peel to it. Other times it can be really jacky or more punchy and hollow, where a flat board, especially if you come off the lip and you start to come down, if you have a flat board, you're just going, oh my goodness. So that led me into modifying the design and doing the Hyperglide 2. There's the characteristics are all the same. I do want to mention one thing about the foils of these guys is in the Hyperglide 1 and the Hyperglide 2, the boards really thin out in the nose up here, but they hold a lot of the thickness from here back. And you'll see that, you know, from the center back is where majority of the thickness is. And you'll find that the board literally rolls into waves because of the buoyancy in the tail. Super, super easy. And you're standing back here from midpoint back anyway. You're not really getting up too far past center usually when you ride it, but it catches waves so good because of that. And that's very uncontemporary as far as foils go, having, you know, the volume more towards the back, because usually they're saying, oh, you need the volume in your chest. But I don't feel like that's always the best way to go. It works really good this way in these boards, having the volume from center going back. Now, getting into the Hyperglide 2, this is added from center, a lot more rocker. It has the same foil, but it has a lot more deck rocker and bottom rocker, and that allows you to snap it. And you can see where the fin placements are on these guys. They're a lot further up, and you can surf the board a little further up, you know, not having to be way back on the tail. And you'll find that this thing has incredible maneuverability, especially when you have a fin setup like that, having the whole cluster up. It's so fun, super maneuverable, and check it out. So again, the Hyperglide 2, 6'8" to 9 foot.